What are my rights as a tenant and a landlord? Today we're discussing all about property and tenant and landlord obligations. Welcome to the Property Simplified show. I'm Claire Munde. To discuss this topic, we are joined by Erick Mukaye, who is the CEO of EMM Consult and a property manager. Welcome, Erick. Now, when we have identified a property as a tenant, what is the checklist of things that we should look out for before moving into a house?
Tenants and landlords relationships are very important. They can mean a peaceful stay in a place you go to, or it can be very chaotic. Now, just as you identify a house to live in, as a tenant, the first thing you need to confirm is that whoever is offering you the house is the legal owner of that property. There are instances where we have people who have taken up houses and discovered they pay to somebody who is not the legal owner of the property. Therefore, the tenant should do their own due diligence. And it's a very simple thing. One, you can ask from around if there are other houses around. Do you know the owner of this place? You can check if there is, you can ask for the documentation and find out if the person who is signing the agreement is the person who is the owner of the place. You can ask for an ID. You have a right to ask as a tenant whenever you get a house that you are interested in. On the other hand, a landlord also has the obligation to do a due diligence on whoever is coming into the house. First of all, you need to find out who this person is, how many people are going to stay in the house, because a house, if it's residential, has a certain capacity of people it can take. If it's for office use, you know it's either it's being used for this purpose, because the tenant must use a house for the purpose it's intended for. When you take on a tenant and you have not done that due diligence, you'll be surprised to find that you have more than enough people living within your house, and probably you've taken on somebody who has run away from somewhere else, having not paid their rents wherever they are. So it is important for a person to do their due diligence on whoever is coming in. The next is to confirm the state of the house. How is the house? Is it functional? Are the amenities provided for? What you need, is it provided for, and are they in good order? Checklist includes doing an inventory of the place. Do you have, are the faucets working? Are the lights working? Are the plumbing systems working? Those are very crucial. So that at the exit from the house, where there's expectation to restore the house to its original condition, you do not have pull and push, because you found this house in this manner, and you will need to leave it in that particular, or restore it to that particular point if the agreement provides for that. So an inventory of the house is very important. Thirdly, when making payments, please do make payments in a situation where you can follow up your payments. We have instances where we have people who have made payments in cash to people they do not know, probably in hotels, in car parks, on the road. And then if somebody tells you don't even know whom you made payments to, there is no confirmation of that payment being received by that person. He could deny that he didn't receive. And many tenants, prospective tenants, have lost money by paying to people whom they don't know, who do not own those houses they're interested in, but because they purported to be the owners or the agents of those properties, you trusted and gave them cash. I always suggest that for making payments, either use an M-Pesa where you have a record, make a payment by check, or make a bank transfer. That makes it easier for you to trace if there's any dispute in terms of payments made on the house.
So you've said that as a landlord, you can determine the number of people you want to go into your house. What is the line between discrimination and preference? Because sometimes we hear of landlords saying that I don't want some people from a certain, let's say, country into my house. What is the line? Is it okay to say the number of people you want in your house and the kind of person you want? Is it discrimination?
It is not discrimination. What we are looking at is what is the capacity of the property you are giving to somebody. For instance, you cannot give a one-bedroom house to a family of 6 people. They may be comfortable staying in there, but you realize the resources are not, the infrastructure is not enough to sustain that number. So you find there is overuse of the infrastructure or the whatever is available, and therefore the house deteriorates. It is important to know that every space has a minimum or a maximum number of people it can take comfortably. So you cannot put too much pressure. And therefore there is this feeling that we especially as agents, we restrict the number of people who live on a property. But because we looked at the infrastructure that is available for that particular property. The truth of the matter is there are people who live communally and they don't mind living in one house. But that is for them. It's just that for you as a landlord or a property manager, you realize this is not, the property cannot sustain that kind of interest of number of people on the property. So you will tend to turn them down, but they'll get somewhere else to live. If they are careful to do that, they will be able to do it.
You've brought up the issue of property agents. How do you spot a fake property agent as a tenant? What are the things that you should be looking out for?
All estate agents are registered with Estate Agents Registration Board. They go through a rigorous process of registration. And then after registration, you do an annual renewal of your license. Any estate agent must have an annual license that is renewed for that year. To prove, you can go to the Kenya Gazette. They do the gazettement of the estate agents is done around March, April. So if you just go to the public printers, the government printers, they should be able to give you a gazette notice of all the estate agents who are licensed and registered for that particular year. It's a public document that you can access to prove that. Or you can ask the agent himself to give you his agency registration number or license, then you can prove it against the gazette notice.
Then we've seen that agents have their own structure of determining how much they charge a tenant and a landlord for a property. So is there a common structure, or is it free for all? Because you'll hear sometimes a landlord says that find for me a person for my property, and then you'll see that the agent charges you, let's say one month rent if I find you a tenant, and then for the tenant they're told to pay 2,000 bob, let's say, as a finder's fee. Is there a structure to it, or is it anybody does whatever they like?
The estate agency registration has got a scale fee on how you can make payments. Any payments asked out of that is arbitrary, and unless you have an agreement with the agent, there is a way in which payments are made, fees are charged, and it's all contained in the regulations. In most cases, when a tenant seeks a house, the landlord is supposed to pay for the services of the estate agent who is mandated to get that client, in most cases. However, in certain instances where a client particularly seeks the services of an estate agent to source for, they can agree on how much, and it's all contained in the scale of fees. On how much they can pay. So they are not arbitrary figures, they will be just pick them up anywhere. Now there are a lot of people who pay, what do you call that? You call it a fee that you find as fee, or yes. It is outside the scale. So if somebody asks you, that's private arrangement, if you're ready to do it, that's up to you. But there is a scale, a fee that you need to pay as a tenant and as a landlord. If you as a tenant has asked to be helped to source for property, then you can pay based on your agreement. But in most cases, the landlords will be expected to. And in most cases, it ranges between 2.5% to 10%, depending on how you're able to, and whether it's a residential property or a commercial property, and the length of the period upon which the lease is taking. If it's a 1-year lease, there's a certain amount. It's more than a year's lease, of course, the figure would go a little higher. So it totally depends on those factors.
We have been talking to Erick Mukaye, who is the CEO of EMM Consult, and he has shared with us all we need to look out for as tenants and landlords when we're getting into this all-important relationship of a tenancy agreement. As he said, it does not have to be an acrimonious kind of relationship. You can live peaceably, but there are some things that you must tick before moving in as a tenant, and as a landlord there's some things you need to look out for to ensure that you have the right tenant. Now, until next time, this has been the Property Simplified show. I have been your host, Claire Munde. Have a good week ahead.